An Aussie in Vietnam, podcast that gives you everything you need to know about people, places and culture in Vietnam from fellas that live there. An Aussie in Vietnam.
Hồ Chí Minh City, Vũng Tàu,
Đà Nẵng,
Huế, Hà Nội.
Welcome to an Aussie in Vietnam. All right, welcome to an Aussie in Vietnam podcast. My name's Ray, as you know, and today we're talking about a place that's very special to me being an Australian. We're talking about Long Tan. So let me give you a very quick snapshot of what Long Tan is, if you happen to maybe not be an Australian or a New Zealander, and then I'll share with you the easy way to visit that location. So what is Long Tan? So back in 1965, America called in Australia as one of their allies to defend against the North Vietnamese in what was to become a war. Australians, New Zealanders and many other countries, including the Americans, were actually in South Vietnam before the war started as a security detail. Then the order came from the American president to enact a situation of war. So what happened was, at that time or around that time, the Americans said to the Australians, all right, you bring your soldiers over and we will give you what was then known as Phuoc Tuy Province, which is now Vũng Tàu Barrier, which is about 80 to 110 kilometres south of Ho Chi Minh City on a peninsula, I suppose, if you want to call it like that. And in May 1966, the second rotation of soldiers came over. And the first rotation of soldiers were actually based in Binh Hoa City, which is about 40 kilometres east of Ho Chi Minh City, and they were supporting one of the American divisions in that region. But in 1966, the next rotation of soldiers was sent down to this Phuoc Tuy Province, where the Australians had set up an operational base or administrative base in Vũng Tàu, and they had their operational base in a little place called Nui Dat, which is just outside of Barrier. Nui Dat means small mountain, basically, or small hill, I suppose. And the Australian soldiers were responsible for patrolling that particular region, which, I don't know, it's probably, 40 kilometres to the east and about maybe 30 or 40 kilometres to the north, and then all the way down to the peninsula. This became the operational base out of Nui Dat. Now, on August 18, 1966, there was a couple of companies that were patrolling an area of which was called Long Tan Village. The village is still there. You can visit Long Tan Village. And they were walking through some rubber trees, and they came across an unknown amount of North Vietnamese soldiers. A battle occurred. 18 Australians died, and somewhere between 200 and 275 Vietnamese soldiers lost their life in that one afternoon. Amazing numbers of wasted life, And from that, Australians always remember Long Tan. Now, for those of you who are not Australian, there are 3 iconic locations around the world that signify what it means to be an Australian. Number 1 is Gallipoli. As we know, being Australian, people flock to Gallipoli every Anzac Day and pay their respects to the soldiers. Another one was the area of Fromelles in France. The battles in World War I in France were just unhuman, and we can talk about that forever. Fromelles is another place, an iconic place. And the third iconic place is Long Tan. This place signifies Australian history. And the 18 Australian soldiers that died that day is the biggest loss of life in any one event since the end of World War II. And it remains today as the single biggest loss of life. It's about 80 kilometres south of Ho Chi Minh City. Now, there are a few ways of getting there. Number 1, you could do a one-day tour out of Ho Chi Minh City. There's not a lot available as far as arranged tours, but if you got a tour guide and they knew a little bit about it, they could easily hire a car and take you out of Ho Chi Minh City for the day. It's a long day. It's about 80 kilometres down there. You spend about 4 hours down there, and it's about 80 kilometres back. Now, 80 kilometres here in Vietnam it's a good two plus hour drive. The roads are very slow. It's not, and you're there. The other way, and the way I suggest that you do it when you come to Vietnam, is to go to Vung Tau, have a couple of days in Vung Tau, and either get onto a Facebook site. Expats in Vung Tau, Aussies in Vietnam are two of the probably most popular ones, and just ask them, does anyone do tours of Long Tan and Nui Dat? And you will get people there. I know there are both Vietnamese and Australians based in Vung Tau that will take you out to that region and give you a tour. The other way is just to rock up just arrive in Vung Tau, go to any local Australian bar, and you know which ones they are, and just ask someone, hey, do you know someone who does tours to Long Tan? Everyone will know someone. And, the price is quite cheap. It's usually about a half-day tour. You kick off about 7 a.m. and you're usually back by lunchtime or so. It's not far. It's only about 30-something kilometres from Vung Tau to Nui Dat and Long Tan. So it's not a very long drive, and the road is actually much better than the road to Ho Chi Minh City. So it's half of it's quite a quick trip. So that they are the three most popular ways, either from Ho Chi Minh City, bus or ferry to Vung Tau, book on through Facebook, or just go to a local bar. It's quite easy. And you'll get to see the entire area. If you get a tour guide that knows what they're talking about, they will take you to all the little areas that people don't know so well, like Lush Kambol, the airstrip. Nui Dat is actually being cut down at the moment. They're using it for mining. So they're actually cutting the hill down, which is a real shame, because when I first went there, the topography of the mountain actually showed where the tent base was and where the cannon sat and where the latrine was and all that kind of stuff. It was really, really interesting. So some of that's being lost now, which is unfortunate, but it's still there and it's still worth seeing. So that is Long Tan and Nui Dat. If you are an Australian or a New Zealander, I think you should place it on your must-do when you visit Vietnam. If you're an expat living in Vietnam, an expat Australian or New Zealander, and you haven't been there yet, make it a weekend that you must do. Look, I've been there on tours, I've been there by myself, I've been there on bicycle, I've ridden my bike there. I even ran, I did a 50-kilometre run once from Long Tan Cross to the Grand Hotel in Vung Tau. It was an amazing 6 or 7 hours of my life, 50 kilometres. I certainly felt it when I got to Vung Tau. But it was very, very special. And the Grand Hotel, if you know the song by John Schumann, I Was Only 19, they talk about the Grand Hotel, drinking tinnies at the Grand Hotel. The Grand Hotel is still there in Vung Tau, but it's now accommodation and not a bar. But you can actually book and stay at the Grand Hotel. Just under the Grand Hotel is Ned Kelly Bar, which is one of the bars that you could easily go to and book a tour to Long Tan and Nui Dat. So guys, make it a thing. Make it a thing to do. You won't be disappointed. It's a pretty special place, and it's a pretty special experience to have when you visit Vietnam. Thanks, guys. I'm off to work, and you enjoy your day and enjoy your week, and see you soon again on an Aussie in Vietnam podcast. Bye for now.